Welcome to Sit Down News. Today, I'm going to be speaking about a story that I wrote back in October of 2020. As I've mentioned before, I'm trying to catch up on the old stories so that I can keep moving forward. The title of the story was "The Gotti Chaperone Ended Up with a Broken Bone." This story is in reference to my cousin, Louie Lazzinnaro, who's my first cousin on my father's side of the family. And back then, John Gotti Jr. was the acting boss of the Gambino family for his father, who was incarcerated, and always had a crew of guys around him at his beck and call, one of them being my cousin Louie. Louie had just taken over a general contracting business that my uncle had, his father, and his father retired. He also had a restaurant, and he also owned a couple of horses, thoroughbreds. He had a love of horse racing since he's a kid. His father used to bring him and I to the track back then. And presently, Louis owns a very good restaurant called Nove in Saratoga Springs. So if you're in Saratoga, check it out. The food's pretty good. By 1999, John Jr. was no longer in the street because he was being shipped off to federal prison on a racketeering case. So the Gambino family transitioned, and Pete Gotti now became the acting boss of the family. And Pete Gotti naturally is the brother of John Gotti. And just like his nephew, he was using Louis for various things. And in 2000, Pete accompanied his niece, Victoria, which is John Gotti's daughter, on a trip up to see her father in the United States Penitentiary in Marion, that's in Illinois. And back then, Victoria was married to Carmine Bull Agnello. And Carmine was a Caporegine with the Gambino family back then. The marriage was rocky at the time, and they were having some marital issues. So Pete got in touch with my cousin Louie and told Louie to make himself available for those days that they were going on the trip. And Louie accompanied them up there. So the visiting process to visit an inmate is like a grueling experience for everyone, but more so for the loved ones and the family going up to see their loved one that's incarcerated. It's an extremely long day, and it's just ended. People are emotionally drained, and usually they go have dinner and go back to the hotel room to rest. But after that visit with her father, Victoria was not in the mood to rest, and she told her uncle that she was in the mood to go into town and watch a movie. So Pete told my cousin, "I want you to go and chaperone my niece to the movies, go with her." And as I wrote in the story, there was no harm done. It was just two adults going to the movies. However, when they came back from this trip, somehow word of my cousin taking Victoria to the movies got back to Carmine Bull. And he had a different opinion of what went on. He felt that, I guess, my cousin was trying to hit on his wife. And he summoned Louis to his junkyard, which was in Jamaica, Queens. So with John Jr. no longer in sight, Louis's not going to go over to Pete or reach out to Pete and ask him what Carmine wants. He just showed up to the junkyard. When he gets to the junkyard, when he walks in, Carmine Bull proceeds to start cracking him with a baseball bat and winds up breaking his arm, busting him up a little bit. And then afterwards, Louis drives himself to the hospital and gets himself attended to. This story was told to me not by Louis, not by my cousin, but by Frankie Radici. Frankie's a friend, which means a made member of the Gambino family. And he had asked me if I heard what happened between Carmine and my cousin, and I didn't. And he told me the whole story. A little while after, I went to my cousin and I asked him if there was any truth to this whole story, because obviously I was away at the time. And he said, yes, there was, but he assured me that he had nothing to do romantically with Victoria. He said that it was just innocent, that he really did take her to the movies, and that he got blamed for something that, he was innocent of. And in his defense, what is he supposed to do? Tell Pete, no, I'm not going? He was uncomfortable. He told me that he didn't want to go, but the guy told him to go and he had to listen to him, and he went. And, he was disgusted by the whole, everything that transpired, obviously. And I think Frankie Radice even said the same thing. He said that, your cousin was innocent. He didn't have nothing to do with Victoria, and he just took her to the movies. So the whole thing was unfortunate, and an embarrassment for my cousin, for really doing nothing. All he really was doing was what he was told to do. He was told to take her to the movies, watch over her, and he did, and that was really it. And that's really the story. But in my opinion, obviously this story came out after it happened. And, that was on Pete. What was John Jr. going to do? John Jr. was away doing his time. That was on Pete not to let that go unaddressed. Obviously, he couldn't do nothing about it because it already took place. But as far as I heard, he didn't do anything about it. And, he was just too occupied with, running the family up until his conviction, I think in 2003, 2004, whatever it was. But that's the end of the story. It was a short story. As I said, this was an older one, and I'm just trying to catch up. I want to catch up so that I covered everything that I did in the past. And then as I write a new blog, I could put it up. I'm presently working on the new one. I don't know if I'm going to get finished by today or tomorrow. I don't want to rush it. And I hope you guys will enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed this story. I hope everyone's having a good Saturday. And, I'm going to go about my day as well. Stay healthy and stay positive. Ciao.